to energize the session, let's start with a voting question. Arab Advisors team, can we have the first voting question, please? Let's not start the voting, just put it in place. It's a very long question. The Arab region has witnessed rapid growth in smartphone adoption. Do you think that the wearable devices market will boom in the same way? Answer A, wearables will witness higher growth. B, wearables will grow at nearly the same pace we've seen in smartphones. And C, no, the adoption will be slower. People need to get used to the idea first. So it's about wearables in the ecosystem, wearable technology, and the voting has started. Here are the voting pads for our speakers. Have 17 more seconds of voting. You can choose either A, B, or C. You need to see the green light to make sure that your vote has been counted. Okay, 61% of those who voted, I think around 40 people voted or so. So 61% of 40 people think that no, the adoption will be slower. People need to get used to the idea first. Nael, what do you think of this opinion?
I think it is...
You need to turn on the mic.
Okay. No, I support this conclusion. I think this is the right thing. Smartphones have been very, very useful in many, many ways, while wearables, I believe, will be very useful, but they will take much longer time for people to see their usefulness compared to smartphones.
I also support this. My opinion is that coming from a payments startup and being in this field and actually having developed a mobile wallet myself and other NFC-based technologies here in Jordan even, testing them out, this is an extremely exciting area. Unfortunately, it's also very gimmicky. Is there any real pain for me to pay with a phone versus cash in my wallet today? I think that's the big question that we need to answer. The experience has to be, like you said earlier, Jawad, incentivized in certain ways and so on and so forth, but it also has to be 10 times, at least 10 times in my opinion, better than actually using cash, and we're not at that today.
So yes, I voted for the last one, which is it'll take up some time. Definitely you're going to have early adopters that will try out the wearables. I happen to be a wearable user. Before I used to check my phone constantly in meetings, etc. Now I'm constantly checking my watch, and people think that I'm actually being more rude than when I was checking my phone. Sorry. So it's definitely it's going to take some time to get used to the idea. Again, to get people to change habits is difficult. In order to get them to do that, you have to give them an incentive. And I think if loyalty is part of this equation, then you can incentivize people to use other devices than cash to make payments.
Not being rude, I actually have the questions for the panel sent to my Gmail account, so that's why I'm saving paper and being green in the process. Okay, that's a very interesting question. Is it all hyped up? Do consumers really see a reason to replace their cash plastic with their phone or with wearable technologies? Basically, this is, let's either agree with Fouad or rebut Fouad's idea of saying it has to be 10 times more convenient for people to switch from cash to mobile and wearable payment systems. So Nael and Roy, please.
No, I believe that there are many, many advantages in going for a cashless society and a cashless way of living. I strongly believe that it is much more convenient for people to use either mobile wallet or credit cards, or to have full, let's say, flexibility in terms of payments using their mobile phones or any other device, really. I believe that cash is restrictive in many, many ways. Of course, a few thousands of years ago, cash was a revolution. Money was invented, and this was one of the major milestones in the history of mankind. But I believe that it is time now to change this, at least from the physical form of cash, to make it more virtual. And I have many, many personal experiences that support such an opinion.
Roy?
I'm just going to use two examples. Example one, you walk into Starbucks, you order your drink, you pay for it in cash, and you go to your seat, right? You go to your end of story. Second one is you walk into Starbucks, first thing you look at your wearable, and you're going to be able to see basically how much you can spend at Starbucks today. I get my paycheck at the end of the month, deposited in my bank account, and I try to budget it over the month, so less my bills, my expenses, etc. So the idea is one glance at my wearable, I want to be able to tell, okay, how many times I've been to Starbucks this year, this month, this week, but at the end of the day, how much can I really spend right now at Starbucks? I have a tendency to overspend at Starbucks. Then the next thing I want to know is what offers do I have? I'm a regular there. Because I went in there, they're aware of how many times I go into Starbucks, how much I've bought before. I'm going to see all the offers that are available to me, whether it's a discount on an existing drink, a free drink, etc. The other side that Starbucks is going to see, they're going to recognize my favorite drink right away. I like my chai latte with almond milk and not very sweet, for example. So that's something that they could have, they could prepare for me. The third thing is I would like to pay with any device that I choose. It could be my phone, it could be my wearable. But when I pay, I'm going to get loyalty points, and I want to see those loyalty points right away. And it's very important to get a choice. I could pay with my loyalty points, and I could pay with cash, or I mean the equivalent on my wearable or my mobile device.
Okay, fair enough. I have a question for you, Fouad. You have a nice startup in Jordan where people can order from Amazon, but then because they don't have credit cards or they don't want to use their credit cards, and you don't want the cash on delivery system because you don't want to knock on the door and say, here's your goods, I don't want it anymore. You actually have cash on order. Basically, people order, you go collect the cash, and then tell them in 2 weeks' time you'll have your goods. Do you like this, or do you want people to? I mean, is the fact that people are not using electronic payment and mobile payment, is it a boon for your business, or will your business do better if people adopt it?
Well, I mean, let's take a few steps back and let me give you some history about how we got to the point of actually running CashBasha and being an agent for Amazon in the Middle East today. Basically, what we found is that there's an infrastructure problem in the Middle East specifically, and around the world. Oh, Ms. Moore? Okay. So there's an infrastructure problem. We found that 85% of the population in the Arab world prefers cash. We have a cash-minded economy. People want to prefer and to pay cash, especially for things that are online. Now, for one reason or the other, and I think we've talked about a lot of that throughout the day, they don't believe in credit cards or other payment systems. What we've been able to do, instead of cash on delivery having about 25 to 30% failure rate for most companies, we've been able to simply flip the equation and have a convenient way for payment, either down the street at a local convenience store or at your doorstep, wherever you may be. So we have a network that is connected through an API. So we built an API to the real world to actually collect cash on demand in real time and have it confirmed back to the merchant immediately that the actual transaction has been made. This takes 24 hours usually, but anybody who wants to buy something online can actually use cash. People thought there was a convenience in cash on delivery, but there also was a cost of cash on delivery and a bit high risk. Actually, we don't have that risk today because we've guaranteed the money upfront to the merchant, in this case Amazon, and other merchants to come along. But people want to pay with cash. It's not the convenience of actually getting the item.
That's the question I want.
Right.
Why do you think that a lot of people want to just pay in cash? Is it because they don't have the alternative, or they have the alternative, but because it's not, there isn't no built insurance for it, like in other countries?
No, mostly it's because they prefer cash. It's not that some people do
But
have
why
the
do they
alternative.
prefer cash? I want to dig deeper
Oh,
into
sure.
why do they prefer cash?
So cash is in their pockets. It's available around. So now when we look at Jordan, for example, 75% of the population is unbanked or underbanked somehow. How many people actually get their salaries in the at the end of the month or the beginning of the month, and they take it out completely from the bank and they put it under their pillow or under whatever, as you know. So cash is readily available with citizens, and instead of actually having a transaction cost, because many of the merchants today, take a percentage of the transactions. That's where they don't like using it. But mainly, I think there's a lack of trust more than anything else with the financial systems that are available, the electronic financial systems.
What do you think?
I agree. I think that many people, because they are used to dealing with cash, they prefer to pay in cash. But the question really is this the best way to do it, or is it time to change? And I believe that it is time to change. And I believe that a society, any society, and people and all stakeholders actually will benefit greatly in a cashless society. I mentioned that I have certain personal experiences, and last Christmas, for example, we were in Sweden for 10 days holiday with the family. So there were 5 of us, and we arrived at the airport, and the first thing I thought, I want to go to an exchange office and change some dollars to Swedish krona. But we arrived at 9 o'clock in the evening and they were closed. So I said, I'll do it tomorrow. So I got a rented car and we drove to Stockholm. The following day we went up to the north. We stayed for 5 days and there was no need for any cash. Anything that I needed, it was so easy to pay with a credit card. And then we went to Stockholm, and 5 more days, 5 of us, we stayed for totally 10 days without really using any cash whatsoever. And it was really the first time in my life that I have experienced such a situation, and it was great. In a way, it was freedom. Compare this to last summer, the same family, 5 people, we went to Greece, and we went to a restaurant, and at the end of the meal, I gave them my credit card, and they said, sorry, we don't take credit card. We have to pay in cash. And, I looked at my dollars and so on, and we, exchanged at the restaurant. And for 10 days, we were there for 10 days, and almost, I would say, 90% of all transactions had to be paid in cash. And at the end of the 2 holidays, I was thinking about the difference between Greece and Sweden in terms of economy and in terms of effectiveness in usage of money and in usage of, as you mentioned earlier, taxes and so many other things. And in my opinion, this is the difference. If you automate and, to go into a cashless society is really full automation of the means that you have. If you fully automate it, I believe that everybody will benefit.
Roy, your thoughts?
The systems that we're building today and the projects that we're talking about, they're not necessarily being built for the people that are here. We're talking more the digital natives. And the digital natives will be the majority by 2025. And that's really, these are people that think differently. They were born with everything is available on Google, available online. They've always have access, so they will have no problem using any device and not using cash. For the generations that exist today, some of them have transitioned. We have people that transition, kind of people like us. We were comfortable digitally, but we're not digital natives. And people that choose not to participate, there'll always be the people that go to the ATM at the end of the month. They pull all their cash and they want to hold on to it and see it under the pillow, or that's not something you're going to be able to change overnight.